Static routes work well in a very small environment, but if you want to scale up to a larger environment, we really need to get into the dynamic routing protocols. We need to let the routers talk to each other. So how do we do that? So if we were running an IPv6 environment here on our outside router out here, router 3, we automatically know where the paths are. We know about the two networks that we have, and we could statically configure other networks in here if we wanted to. But maybe we'd rather have the routers talk to each other instead. So again, that would be my dynamic routing protocols. Dynamic routing protocols. Rather than static, we just did static where we, as network administrators, put it in ourselves. If we don't want to do that, then we'll use the dynamic routing protocols. Now this is a software program that's running on the routers that actually allow them to communicate to each other. We have RIP, Routing Information Protocol, NG, which would be the next generation. We have OSPF v3. OSPF v3 allows me to configure the dynamic routing for IPv6, and we can use EIGRP for v6 as well. So these routing protocols, once we turn them on a router, it actually allows us to set up the networks, the known networks, and then configure it so that the routers actually talk to each other. So anytime we add a new network or we lose a network, it goes in or comes out of the IP route table. If we were to look at the different options to actually see how it looks inside the router. Let me get rid of this for now. We don't need this over here. In my router, I'll press return to get started because that's what it tells me to do, press return to get started. I'm sitting now at router 3. I'll do enable, get to my privileged executive mode, go to global config, and then from here we get into the router configuration modes. So router, what are my choices? BGP, EIGRP, OSPF, RIP. These are for my standard IPv4 routing protocols. If I want to do IPv6, it's IPv6 router. And I'll put the help functionality in here, EIGRP, OSPF, or RIP6. So again, these are my choices. If I wanted to configure RIP for v6, it's IPv6 router, RIP, and now I have to specify the string for this purpose. So router RIP, we'll call this corp1. And it lets me go in and modify the RIP routing function. Now IPv6 routing is not enabled, so I would need to do IPv6 unicast routing. That will turn it on, and that will allow me to go in and configure my RIP for v6. The same process would be used for EIGRP or OSPF if you're configuring the version 6 routing protocols.